Hi, everybody. Welcome to Growth Hacks Experiences. This week we have an extraordinary guest joining us, the awesome Neal Schaffer. Let me tell you a little bit about our special guest of today, because we have a packed session, a very important session for all the business coaches out there, business coaches, life coaches, everyone that we met in Mind Valley and the company of EverCoach. We have this special edition because we have so many questions of how we can grow our business as a life coach, as a business coach, what kind of tools we can use, what kind of strategies we can apply. And this is the right moment where we can get most of that knowledge of a lot of these tips that can serve all of these beautiful people, lives of souls that actually are looking for serving, for improving the health, the business, and the communities in their surrounding. Neal, how are you? Thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm pumped to be here.
Neal, so just to tell as well our coaches, which by the way, I already was mentioning to them about this special day, let me tell also about some of the things that Neal has done in the past. Neal is a leading expert in marketing, not only from this perspective of digital transformation, but also in consulting, training, helping enterprises in all kinds of scales to develop their marketing strategy, influencing marketing, and social selling initiatives. Also, Neal is also is a teacher in digital media for executives at the Rutgers Business School, an Irish Management Institute in Ireland, and the University in Finland. Wow. By the way, Neal, I was watching also about all the languages that you speak, and I was like, wow, that's very interesting, very powerful. Do you see
you speak a few yourself, don't you?
Do you see a big impact as well? Because I was wondering actually that I was starting from the strong connections that you have with Asia, with Japan. How did that happen, Neal? Could you tell us a little bit about it?
I grew up in an area of Southern California where most of my friends were Asian American. So when I went to university, I said, I'm going to learn an Asian language and I'm going to do my junior year abroad in Asia. So I ended up learning Chinese actually first and doing my junior year abroad, spent some time in Taiwan and then in Beijing. And then for various reasons, I ended up coming back and learning Japanese and actually beginning my career in Japan. So I actually lived, born and raised in the United States, did not start even speaking Japanese until I was 21, but then moved to Japan, started working there and ended up living there 15 years, met my wife there, learned how to play drums, was in a band there, learned how to scuba dive, got licensed there, learned how to ski, learned how to drink beer, had just, wonderful, wonderful memories. And I say that because I don't care how old you are, you're never too old to learn a new language, but you gotta live there and really immerse yourself in the culture. So I didn't hang out with other Americans in Japan. I pretty much hung out just with Japanese, and I tried to use Japanese as much as I could. So just a bit of advice for those that might want to pick up a foreign language. It is doable, but I think you need the right mindset, and you definitely got to live there.
Correct. Actually talking about that, I was in a German school when I was a child, and
Oh, wow.
I was probably studying like 12 years in a German school, but I never really spoke German till the moment that I really went to live in Germany. So I completely understand that perspective.
Absolutely.
So immerse yourself completely. And Neal, from being an author of 3 books in social media, by the way, I would love to share all these titles of like maximize your social and the age of influence. Well, I wanted to make sure actually that we're going to make a list of all the important assets that we want to share with the life coaches, business coaches listening to this video today. Neal, if we may ask, throwing you some important questions for us as coaches about how we can learn to boost and maximize the potential of our businesses as business coaches. I'm going to start throwing you some what we call darts, if I may.
Bring them on.
So here we go. So Neal, how to stand out? We're thinking about like there is the algorithm of LinkedIn. There is the way actually how we can cut through the whole noise of people publishing day after day, all kinds of publications, and you have all these self-declared experts in multi-level marketing in LinkedIn. How do you think that actually it's one of the ways to stand out?
Well, I think I begin with taking social media out of the picture. Like, who are you? What makes you special? And often it's a cultural background. It's how you grew up. It's what, it's your mission. It's the why of why you do what you do. I think you first got to really dig deep into who you are to begin to uncover those things that become assets, right? So Japan is something that there's tons of digital marketing experts on LinkedIn, but very few can have the knowledge that I have about Japan that can also speak both languages. So I can use that to my advantage as part of my personal branding. I can talk about Kaizen and Japanese approach to business and what we can learn from it. And whatever you do, I think the whole idea about sticking out is being memorable. And the only way to be memorable is to have something a little bit different about you that is unique to you that nobody can emulate. So I challenge, and this is really an art in personal branding, right? There are some people, part of their personal branding is their actual outfit. If you look at my profile photo, I'm always wearing a black suit and royal blue shirt. And I do these, I just came back from Berlin, right? I did a photo shoot there in the black suit and royal blue shirt in, very, very hot weather there. But the branding can be external like that, or, something internal, but that would be where I start. What is going to be, your niche within a niche, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it begins with, like I said, brainstorming ideas. How can I be different than the others? What is unique about me? What can I talk about that they can't? And often that may come down to a particular region of the world that you want to focus in or that you live in. It might come down to industry that you're very experienced in. You're more experienced than any other business coach in this very, very specific industry, like, French bakeries throughout Europe. I don't know, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
Begin with what makes you special. And that is really the start of how you are going to stick out online. And I will say, yes, there's a lot of noise, but not everybody sees all the noise. It's going to come down to your actual connections and how you stick out to them and become memorable to them. And if you're successful with that and they engage with your content, the algorithm will reward you and you'll be able to reach more and more people. So start with the people that you know and gather engagement from them based on this personal branding exercise. And I hope that gives you some ideas as to how to start the process. And it's a long process. There's no one right or wrong answer. You may go down one route and then it's like, that's not me. And that's fine. It's okay to change. But if you really want to stick out, you got to be different. There's just no other way around that.
Exactly. Thank you, Neal. And if adding to it, may I ask your version of considering the Japanese connection? May I ask your version about Ikigai? How do you see Ikigai in this sense?
That is so funny because I was at the Berlin airport on Saturday afternoon and I went into the bookstore there. I love going into airport bookstores and love looking at like the top 10 English books. Number 2 was Ikigai. The version, not the original version, but one written by an actual Japanese novelist. And I'm only halfway through, but I read it on the airplane coming home. And I read enough of it that it's probably going to influence the introduction in my own new book that I'm writing. So I think that, when I think of Ikigai, and I think that everybody will think of it differently, I have always been about, in a weird way, like wanting to serve, very, very detail oriented. So, the sushi chef who's always trying to get the perfect, dish of sushi. Or they talk about in the book, sculptors that try to get this perfect sculpture. I sort of am that way, my approach to business. In fact, looking back and connecting the dots, I've always been that way. So for me, it's about perfecting your marketing, right? And getting into the details and how can we make it better than it was yesterday? And how can we make it perfect? And it's really that pursuit that excites me, that drives me. That's sort of my Ikigai. And I think you can have multiple Ikigais, but as far as my professional Ikigai, it really is for perfection in what I do. And for me, that is in this digital marketing sphere where a lot of companies make mistakes, they're confused, looking for direction, or they've been led astray, and it's always changing, right? So that is my ikigai. And I think when I said you need to tap into your why, often the why is intertwined with that ikigai, right? Yeah. Like, what gets you up and the book talks about, what gets you up in the morning, what gets you excited about the day. And that is a great definition of ikigai. And you have to have that, right? It doesn't have to be for your business life. It should be for your personal life as well. But you need something to spark your own personal journey. But I believe if we're going to spend 40 hours a week doing something professionally to earn a salary, we should also have an ikigai for that. And that can serve us. And we can always tap into that whenever we're confused or, whenever we're looking for content ideas or, proposal ideas, whatever that is. I think the ikigai becomes a guiding light. So I'm really, it's almost like we had pre-planned that question, which I know we didn't. But yeah, I'm really excited. It's really, really top of mind right now, that concept. So thank you for that.
Beautiful, beautiful. So now that we talk about the algorithm and the standing out, now, how would you recommend, or what do you consider that is important when you set up a profile in LinkedIn, for example, without being so salesy? And of course, it's important to understand how to close deals, but at the end, we don't want to mess up also our brand. We also want to be authentic and trustworthy. How would you say, actually, in terms of your profile, what should be the do's and don'ts?
Yeah, that's a very broad question that we could probably talk an hour on. But obviously, you want to have a professional photo. Now, if you're a life coach, it might be different than a business coach, right? But LinkedIn, generally speaking, is professional. You want to be smiling, right? You want to attract other people through your presence. So I think the most important parts, without going into too much detail, right, is you have that profile photo. You have a background cover photo as well. And I think a lot of people just neglect this, but it's really important because when people go to your profile, that's the first thing they see is at the very top. Yep. So until recently, I had like just a stack of my most recent book, The Age of Influence, because I was that's all it was. So I wasn't like saying buy the book. It was just a picture of, like 10 copies laid out, right? More recently, I'm like, hey, this is how I help businesses and these are the services I offer. I think it's okay to do something like that so that people know what exactly you do, right? And if you were to go to linkedin.com/in/Neal Schafer, you can sort of see what I have as a template. But, whatever it is, I think you should have something there, some part of your visual branding. And then you have what's called the professional headline. And this professional headline is about, I don't know, maybe 210 or 240 characters. But it's really important because if people are searching for let's say I'm in Berlin, Germany, and I do a search for life coach in Berlin, what comes up in the LinkedIn search results are a photo, a name, and then that headline. And that's why it's really critical that you really nail like who you are, what makes you different, how you help people. And there's no one like perfect formula for this, but I help X do Y through Z, line, vertical line or pipe, and then number one winner at Mind Valley Conference 2023 / trilingual. Just a few different talking points that will get people intrigued to want to reach out and click and then go to your profile. So I think that those three elements are really, really important. And people just normally don't spend a lot of time on them, but I highly recommend you do. The fourth element then is when they go to your profile, they're going to see your summary or your about, section. And I want you to tell your story there. It should always be in first person. Imagine you were talking to a prospective client. How would you describe yourself? How, warm would you be in that conversation? I think a lot of people take like a third person approach, like Neal Schafer is or it's just, I don't know, it doesn't sound very human and conversational. So that's where you really want to open up your house to other people and say, hey, this is who I am. This is how I help people. This is the story of why I do what I do. And I think if you can nail that, there's other parts of LinkedIn that go beyond that. But I want you to think of like how you help people, how you add value, and your unique story. And I think if you focus on that, you're not being salesy, you're not being promotional, and you're attracting the right people. And you almost want to be a little bit specific to let people know what you do, because otherwise you're never going to attract the right person. So it's okay to repel the people you don't want to work with, right? In your content as well. There's a great book called Content Fortress. I just interviewed the authors of it in my own podcast. And use content to qualify people. So you don't want anyone and everyone contacting you. So I prefer to work with entrepreneurs of small to medium-sized businesses, or startup business, whatever that is. Like, if you have an ideal type of person that you think you can serve best, talk about that. Talk about why you'd like to serve them. And that's really, really going to help you hone in on that ideal customer. And they will be the ones that will contact you, because of, this is sort of the way that personal branding works. You are what you tweet. You're going to attract those based on how you set this all up. So I'm hoping that gives you something to work on. And really, LinkedIn profiles are extremely influential. I don't get that much engagement on my posts, but every time I talk to someone on my network, Neal, I saw that you did this and did that. So there's almost this like silent lurkers. They're not necessarily engaging, but they're seeing you. You are visible. So don't take it for granted. Really, of any profile as a coach, you really need to nail LinkedIn and start there. There's a lot more that goes with it. I have a free ebook on my website that people can download with more advice. And I'm actually going to have a new version of it for 2023 out in about another week. Been working on that today. But that would be where I start.
Yeah. In that sense, it also resonated to me about another idea that I believe is also Japanese, what I was mentioning about, I think it's the Kenso Satori, about really knowing what was your pain and how did you overcame that. So you make actually really a clear understanding of who are you going to help with.
Yeah, and I don't want you to get too overly dramatic. I think we sometimes see these like internet marketer speakers, and they were in some car crash when they were 3, and they could barely walk. I don't want you to get, I don't want you to pull on too much emotion there. Okay. But why you do what you do, why you're passionate. That's what I want you to cover, not something sensational like some people do. I don't think LinkedIn's the right place for that.
True. Then is the connection with other social networks, indeed, like YouTube, for example, where you are more open to in different directions of conversations. Indeed. Which I would love to ask you in a moment. Our next question is about, what are the top 10 scenes, top 10, let's say top 5 if possible, of in LinkedIn now that everyone is overlooking? What should we start doing now? When some people actually will say, not everyone is getting your information. So what it will be important for people to get right away? We were talking about exactly what we're explaining. But in the terms of, for example, whenever you are, for example, a freelance coach, just starting, what would you say actually the top 3-5 scenes in the terms of what you publish now?
Well, I'll give you my top 3 tips. Number 1 is get your profile set up correctly, because everything that you do is going to lead people back to your profile. All roads lead to Rome. All roads lead to your profile. So, seriously get that set up. The second thing I'd say is LinkedIn has something called creator mode. And a lot of people don't know about this, but you don't have to be a content creator, influencer to turn it on. I think it's available internationally now, but you need to edit your profile, and you should see a resources section and the ability to turn this on. And when you turn it on, there's a few things you can do. You can add these hashtags on your profile, I believe they appear right underneath your name. So if you specialize in a certain type of coaching, what are your specialties? You'll want to add those there. There is belief, there's no proof, but LinkedIn has hinted that people that have creator mode on and, they talk about things that they say they're an expert in, there might be a little bit more visibility for them, not only in the search engine, but also for their content. So it's free, there's no money here. So you get to add the hashtags. You can add a custom website link. So if you were to go to my profile, I have a link that says my website. You can, book a free 30-minute consultation. It could be whatever you want, but you have to have creator mode on in order to get that. And then the other thing that it allows you to do is it gives you access to the LinkedIn newsletter feature and the LinkedIn live stream feature. These are not really that important, but if as a coach, at some point you begin to, publish some sort of newsletter, whether it's weekly or monthly, you can simply copy and paste and put it on LinkedIn like I do with my weekly newsletters. And it's just additional distribution for what you do. So, it's a real no-brainer to do. And that is, the second thing that I think you should do. The third thing is what you hinted at, which is content to publish. I think, 5-10 years ago, LinkedIn was about like LinkedIn groups or get lots of connections. And clearly today it's about the content, and it's not just engaging with other people that you should do. If you were going to publish, one piece of content per week, I'd want you every day engaging with 5, 10, 15, 20 people, right? Okay. But the content is really interesting because it's become more personal. And there's a lot of older traditional LinkedIn users that don't like what has happened. But, millennials have taken over the working generation, and the workforce and LinkedIn as well. So the way we communicate on LinkedIn now is a little bit more like Facebook, right? The topics we cover are still professional, but, having a selfie photo and being able to talk about, today I had a major breakthrough with a life coach client. Let me tell you what happened. You probably see these in your feed. It's a selfie or a photo, and the first, 1 or 2 sentences, they got a really good hook. And then they want you to, click that see more. That sends a really powerful sign to the algorithm that you're really interested in this person's content. So you really want to aim for every piece of content that you publish on LinkedIn. You really want to aim for those first 2 sentences to build up some intrigue, some curiosity, get people to click the see more. So one is the selfie, and do what I did. I was in Berlin for a week. I went on to, it was actually ended up being an Airbnb service. I normally will find them on TripAdvisor. You can find them on Craigslist. Hire a photographer, do a photo shoot. Seriously, I spent an hour with a photographer. She's actually a verified influencer on Instagram with 160,000 followers who knew Berlin, who was able to take me to the cool spots. We took like 300 photos, right? So now, if every week I wanted to post a selfie, I did a photo shoot in Osaka, Japan in April, right? And I did one in London. So now I have, I have all the photos I need. Whenever I need a selfie for something, like boom, I can put it there. So the selfie is one way of doing it. There's also like data visualization. It doesn't have to be a photo of you. If you can visualize something, like a stat or something, these can do really well as well. You have LinkedIn polls. You also have things like this type of carousel post, which requires you to create this like PDF, maybe 5 to 15 slide PDF in a square format. I don't want to go, I don't want to get too complex on this, but I think if you aim for a photo, right? A photo per post with a provocative thought based on your experience, based on your work, whatever it is, and get people to click there. If you were able to do that just once a week to begin with, I think you're going to be able to see some major impact on the platform. So LinkedIn content is, I just wrote this chapter like yesterday for this new 2023 edition of the ebook, because it's changed so much in the last year that it really is this new way of speaking. And hopefully, you begin to look at the posting your LinkedIn feed a little bit differently after you hear this, and they can be done, right? It is not that hard to do. I will also say that probably a lot of people on LinkedIn are now beginning to use AI to help them write that content as well. So I highly recommend, and I'm including a chapter on 2 AI tools that I use for LinkedIn in my ebook, but I highly recommend for content creation, AI is going to give you ideas. It's going to help you write some of the text. I never recommend you copy and paste it, but it's definitely going to give you some ideas and help accelerate your thoughts to paper to publish on LinkedIn. So hopefully that gives you a lot to think about and to implement after you listen to this podcast.
Yeah, wonderful. Indeed. It was going into my following questions, because there are a lot of the tools that we used to, in a way, implement in order to make research about what we wanted to speak about on LinkedIn or in general. I was a big fan of Google Trends, all kinds of Google tools in order to get information. I work with a SEO agency, so we were always looking for keywords in all these kinds of tools, like SEMrush, Ahrefs. But boom, November happened, ChatGPT went out. All the era of all the tools that we have, Mindvalley or certificate or organization just launched a summit full of AI tools. Um, everyone now it's going like, okay, where do we start? How do we do? What
Yeah.
do we take? Oh, it's of course it can get overwhelming. At the same moment, it's exciting. Yet, well, it's all about in a way a strategy or
Yeah,
objectives.
my thoughts on this are I think people get so infatuated with AI and the tools that they forget why they want to use them. So, for me, I don't care about the engine of my car. I'm more concerned about where I'm going to go today, right? So I want you to really think, I think it's great to experiment, to learn what's out there. So you understand the possibilities and to be able to say, you know what, I get that exists, but I don't need that right now. But this I might be able to use. In other words, you should already be wanting to do something and then you're looking for the tool that can help you do it better and faster. And if it
Yeah,
doesn't meet the criteria, like don't worry about it. I mean, there's some cool tools where I could put a little chatbot on my website with a human looking person that, looks human and sounds human. And be able to give like human answers to questions that people have, when they come to my website, right? But to me, that's not like a high priority thing. Like I know it's possible, but it's not something I really want to do. On the other hand, because we're both podcasters here, I found out about a podcast AI tool that will automatically create show notes for my podcast. I'm like, that's brilliant, right? Because it's not really about the SEO. As long as it gives a really good description, it fits the bill. Not everybody's really reading the show notes anyway, but it's something you need to have. So a perfect use case for AI. And then, I use Buzzsprout for my podcast hosting. They then introduce their own AI tool, which does it automatically within Buzzsprout. I don't have to like go to another tool. So it's like done. I'm just going to use that tool. And that has been a serious time saver for me. So those are the sorts of things. I'm not a big, like, just do everything in ChatGPT. I'm actually a bigger Google Bard fan myself, but look for tools out there that are starting to use AI, right? I think that's really like, okay, I want a tool for like Twitter. Okay, well, like what can AI and Twitter do? Like what tools are out there? So I think you need to begin with a why, right? What are you trying to do? And then find the tools that can help you. And I think that's going to be the best way to slowly incorporate these. But if you've never done any of what I'm talking about, don't do it because it's AI, right?
yeah,
You need to really do it with it. You really need to do it without AI first to understand how to best leverage AI as part of it, would be
yeah,
my advice.
yeah. Yeah, indeed, yeah, and if they have some kinds of values where, for example, they are all against technology, and then suddenly they start using AI, it's like going again. There's values as well.
Absolutely.
So now that we're talking indeed about the some of these AIs, and if we go a little bit deeper in terms of like automations, do you see systems indeed? Is it something that actually you really see it as like aside of being that it can be productive? Do you think actually that is really going to take over the jobs of people?
I think that every new wave of technology means that people shift in terms of what they do. We saw it with the internet. We saw it with email. We saw it with like IT. There was something called re-engineering in the 90s when these big IT departments were born and you didn't need to manually write a purchase order. It could be done electronically. I think that AI just allows us, once again, like everything else, move to higher value, strategic thinking jobs. Because people still need to program the AIs. People still need to use the AIs. And the AI can't do everything for everyone. So it's just another wave of technology evolution. And like with every wave, it's always smarter to get on top of it and to learn about it. But I don't fear it. And I think if you're really good at what you do and you think AI might impact it, become the pioneer in learning how to use AI for your industry. There's people I know that really push back against anything new. And those are the people who become dinosaurs. So don't push back, look into it, look at its pros and cons, and find out a way to, better understand how it might be of use to you. So,
Exactly.
for instance, I was talking to, my editor in Berlin for my next book, and there's obviously a lot of writers who push back against AI. And I said, listen, you have a bunch of companies now that are trying to replace writers with AI and they're not going to be successful. But if you can be the one that says, hey, I am a writer and I know how to use AI and I can fix your AI content to sound more human, more engaging, and it's going to help you with your SEO. It's going to help you with your conversions. If you can be the master of both worlds, that's a really, really powerful position to be in, right? And that's sort of the role model I want you to all think about vis-a-vis AI. I do not think an AI can be a life coach. I know that there are services saying, hey, here's like a virtual life coach. There are virtual like AI influencers, right? People that are lonely may want to have an AI friend. We're going to see more and more of this, but I think right now it's very novel. And I think at the end of the day, AI just means that human emotion, human connection is all the more important. Which is why I go out of my way. This is also like Japanese influence. I go out of my way to meet people in person. If I want to close business, you're always going to be more successful. You know, Zoom is good and all, but there's nothing like actually sitting down at the same table, drinking, coffee at the same cafe, whatever it is. AI really reminds us of the power of human connection. And I think that's a really powerful takeaway from all the evolution that we see, that is something AI will never take away.
Excellent. Excellent. Indeed. At the end of the day, some of us, we also seen that these tools are there to give us more time.
Absolutely.
Give us back more time. And then it's actually our decision of what are we going to do with that time? Are we going to spend it more with our families? Are we going to think about what we can develop for ourselves in sense of improving the society?
I agree 1000%. Think of AI as your assistant. And that's a really, really good way to start to use it. And if it frees up time, what are you going to do with it, right? So hopefully with your work, you'll be more strategic. Maybe you have a little bit more time to go to the gym more often, spend more time with family. We all need good, balance in our lives. So
now, Neal, thank you. And if I may ask you as well, so the tips that we got so far as business coaching and using tools like LinkedIn, and I of course I know about it that we could go hours about the different strategies. But may I ask you, what kind of tips could you give us to us coaches about becoming a speaker as well, being a speaker and talking about our messages? How would you recommend a starting point in there?
Wow. Well, there's always events looking for speakers, and you're not going to start at some huge international conference probably. But the best way to get experienced is to actually do it, is to actually, go through the process of, applying to speak at events. Start with local events. But you can also, put on your own event, right? You can rent a meeting room in a co-working space. But if you're not ready for that yet, I want you to really practice with like mini videos. And this is something, you have an iPhone, right? And you're talking in front of the iPhone, and just like a 1 minute or 2 minute story or 1 or 2 minute snippet of, once again, like that LinkedIn selfie photo, you could also do a video. And I think that experience will really help you. Because speaking is you're not going to speak for 1 or 2 minutes. It's a 20, 30, 45 minute, maybe hour presentation, or maybe 2 hours. I mean, it really depends on a lot of factors. So you need to put in your reps and get experience. And video is really one of the best ways to do that. In addition to if you're able to speak locally at various events. Toastmasters, I've never been a member, but I know people that swear by it, say it's a great organization to get involved with. I don't know if I know we have it in the United States, not sure in other countries.
Yeah.
But yeah, just look for small, and one of the things I want to talk about, Juan, when it comes to, coaches, is we talk about, the online world, but the offline world is critical, is getting out to networking meetings, right? Meeting people locally where businesses hang out, where professionals hang out. Almost every day, if there was some sort of networking event, I would be there, if I had the time. And really, building that network offline and then connecting with them online, right? And then, as time goes and they engage with your content, then your content might go to their network. So that's how you really want to bridge the online and offline. Yeah. And I really think as a coach, you should be doing both of those in an ideal world.
Wow, that took me to, that took me to another question as well. Like, would you consider that when you go networking, there are some specific situations that you should take care in consideration?
No, networking, first of all, if you're shy, networking is going to really challenge you. And that's a good challenge, because if you want to be a speaker, you can't be shy. Yeah. But I think, just meeting people, understanding that they may not be your target client, but they may be able to introduce you to your target client. So whoever you meet, try to generate a connection. Find out how you can help them. Maybe it's introducing them to someone you know. But if you can make a one-on-one connection, figure out how can I help this one person? And if you can do that for every person that you meet, that would be ideal. I know it's hard. But I think that's really the approach is an open mind. You're going to meet new people. Yes, they're going to find out what you do. You're going to find out what they do. It may be you just pick 3 people. That's like, these are the 3 people that I want to keep in touch with. These are 3 people that I think we can really help each other. I wouldn't do networking looking for your target client. I would do networking looking for people that might be able to introduce you to your target client. That would be the way that I think about it.
Wow. Okay. Super indeed. We got not only from the part of online, so offline connections as well. So everyone actually from CBC and everyone from Mind Valley and EverCoach, guys, actually, ladies, gentlemen, the idea is how to connect not only online, but how offline, and how to make sure that you are resonating with the right values, with the right message that you are bringing to the world. Neal, I really thank you for all these valuable tips for us, for coaches out there, for professionals and entrepreneurs as well, that they are trying to bring a new company, a new enterprise, a new startup into existence. And LinkedIn is a powerful tool. At the end, of course, the platform is the most powerful tool in terms of professionals, B2B and B2B especially. Now, Neal, if the coaches, life coaches, whole body coaches would like to be in touch with you, how would be the best way for them to reach you?
Well, I am Neal Schafer everywhere online. I am the real Neal, so it's Neal. And Schafer, also pronounced Schaffer, but Schaffer. So you can go to nealschafer.com or anywhere on social media. I also have a podcast called Your Digital Marketing Coach with Neal Schafer. So wherever you are, I am there, and you can find me there, and I'd love to hear from you.
Super. We are going to make sure to put all the links and all the information important in the description with our video. I thank everyone for your attention. Neal, it has been a pleasure, and I really hope to speak soon as well again to keep learning from you. By the way, just let me tell you a little story. Do you know that this segment was called Growth Hacks Live only 2 weeks ago? And I was watching one of your interviews with an expert in terms of webinars, and she was she was talking about don't call it live if it's not live. I was like, oh man, my name is Growth Hacks Live, so I changed it to Growth Hacks Experiences because I learned it from you. Neal,
she's also based in the Netherlands.
Yeah, that was really good, really good.